Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, One Piece chapter 933 is out. So if you haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so because I will be spoiling you. But now that you have, let's begin. It's kind of interesting to see the reaction of the community to this chapter. I see a lot of people saying that this chapter was boring, which I disagree with, but I do understand maybe why people are saying this. So we're going to start off with the obvious. A lot of people don't like the direction Big Mom has taken in the story for whatever reason. And I just think that these negative thoughts just accumulate upon themselves. So because Big Mom was in this chapter doing things that you didn't like that she was doing, everything else is just less enjoyable because of that. That just goes with the territory. We should expect more of this as the story continues. I just think that right now a lot of people are really grumpy. But in terms of the main action of this chapter, the meat and potatoes, Komurasaki and Kiyoshiro, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it seems as though Kiyoshiro basically killed her, but I cannot believe that. There's nothing you could tell me could convince me that Komurasaki is going to die, which takes away a little bit from, I think, the power of the scene, on top of the fact that at this point in time, we don't have a lot of reason to really care all that much about Komurasaki, at least not yet. At this point, for most, she's at best interesting in terms of who she is and what she may do. But if she dies, I don't think that anybody's gonna cry. And aside from this, despite the gravity of the situation, I found this chapter to be more like comical. It's meant to be funny more than anything else. But yeah, let's start off and let's talk about the end of this chapter because I think that that's easiest. I think that I would be lying, guys, if I wasn't just a little bit disappointed that we didn't get more Big Mom. I mean, I feel as though the main takeaway points of the end of this chapter is, one, as we speculated recently, Big Mom is more similar to her personality in her childhood. She's back to the very good nature, the good version of Big Mom. And Oda definitely wanted to tell us that. The other part is where they are going next, which is likely going to be to rescue Luffy in the Udon prison. This wasn't outright stated, but I think that we can connect the dots here. And because they don't know what else to do with Big Mom, they're bringing her along. So Oda usually saves some kind of dramatic reveal or something to get us hyped at the end of the chapter. So in this chapter, he chose good Big Mom and traveling to go rescue Luffy. And so regardless of whether or not this is a valid complaint or not, I guess it would be valid depending on, your subjective perspective. But Oda is a lot of the time sort of a figure it out kind of author, and then he eventually comes around to explaining what is going on. If you've been following or watching my videos about Big Mom, of course, you completely understand why Big Mom is the way that she is right now. This was 100% what we thought was going to happen, what made the most sense. But I really just wish Oda hadn't skipped forward to the next morning and off screen most of what occurred to get to sort of this scene. Ultimately, I think that this comes down to Oda cutting material for the sake of moving on in Wano, which a lot of us would appreciate in various contexts, but I personally would have loved to see Big Mom and Chopper interact. And the surprise on Chopper's and Momonosuke's and everybody's face when Big Mom is polite like this. Of course, not because it's necessary to include this, and I think that you would have to assume that Oda and his editors figured the same, but that was just something that I was personally excited for, and we kind of just skipped all of that so that they could move the story forward. But yeah, talking to people about the end of this chapter, and what it seems like some people's biggest fear is if essentially Oda uses Big Mom to nullify a lot of the danger of Wano. Even though they have an overpowered ally at this point in time, you don't want them traveling around Wano essentially safe, or using Big Mom as some kind of shield. And I would have to say that I agree. However, my interpretation of the end of this chapter is regardless of what ends up happening, which could be different from the Strat's intentions, at least at this point, I don't think that their intention is to use Big Mom. I think that right now Big Mom is literally a bag that they are carrying around. They don't know what to do with. They don't want her to get her memories back. So they personally have devised some kind of plan to rescue Luffy, and they just need to take Big Mom as well. And at the very least, I think that this bodes well from what I want from the storyline. It doesn't appear as though that the Straw Hats are willing to simply abandon Big Mom. At this point, I think that Big Mom is very impressionable, and if the Strats wanted to, they could tell Big Mom to go somewhere like, oh, if you go over that mountain over there, there's food there, and literally leave her behind to be found out by, some of the residents of Wano, perhaps Shogun's subordinates or Kaido's subordinates. Big Mom could be found very, very easily, and that for me would be worst case scenario. What I am most hyped for right now is sort of a developing relationship between Big Mom without her memories and the Straw Hats. And that clearly seems to be where this is going. But I also do not want the Straw Hats to use her. That being said, I'm not naive. If they end up trying to break Luffy out of prison, the situation gets hairy at all, and maybe Big Mom becomes their friend. Honestly, it already seems like she is their friend. I think that Big Mom would probably step in and try to assist them in whatever ways that she knows how. But as long as that is Big Mom's prerogative and not some sort of manipulation by the Straw Hats, I'm okay with it. And if I'm honest with you guys, if I'm straight up with you guys, I'm not certain if Big Mom helping in this situation would actually do the Straw Hats much good. Now, on one hand, right, Big Mom is a tank, she's not going to take any damage, but as a fighter right now, I don't know how skilled she would be without her memories, and I expect throughout whatever ends up happening, their journey that they're about to go on, or the infiltration of the prison rescuing, whatever ends up happening, Big Mom will actually be a hindrance more than a help. Just to throw an idea out there that I think is completely plausible, Big Mom is so hyped for whatever udon food is going to be there, but the Straw Hats hopefully don't intend on using her. They want to keep her low-key, they want to keep her hidden away, and to their frustration, they find Big Mom has snuck in to go look for the food, and they have to clean up after her mess. And this sort of leads me to another thing that I am personally excited for that could easily get skipped over potentially, is right now the Chopper and group are going to go to Udon Prison. It seems like that is the case, which would require sort of a journey to get there. I hope that we get to see this journey, and I hope that it is interesting. I want to see Big Mom be a nuisance. I want to see the Strat's exasperation at her childlike nature, but also at the same time they can't hate her because she is super kind and polite. And there's all sorts of other things that are sort of related to this that I can envision that personally excite me. Like, for instance, Big Mom requires a ridiculous amount of food, and Wano is scarce of it. So you take this journey to the prison, and then about halfway there, Big Mom gets hungry. So she goes and eats whatever is along her way, or maybe drinks from the water. She poisons herself, and you could have a hilarious moment where Chopper is telling Big Mom, no, don't eat this poisoned food. Or again, as they continue on this journey, Big Mom gets hungry and they have to, take a stop for some snacks. And in the process, maybe Big Mom can learn about the situation in Wano, how the residents, the people are mistreated, that they are going hungry, and that all of the food is being hoarded by the Shogun. If you are looking for Big Mom to become sympathetic with your cause, there's no way to do this as quickly as telling her that somebody is stealing and hoarding all of the food, making others go hungry. And again, just another hypothetical, something that gets me hyped that I don't necessarily expect to see, but if it happened, I would laugh so much, is if Big Mom sort of teams up with Chopper to devise some kind of plan to nab some food and give it to the people. So yeah, that's what I mean when I say that I'm excited for the journey itself, as long as some interesting things happen. But yeah, I guess my major takeaway point here, what I really want to say, is a lot of people expect Big Mom to be some sort of plot convenience, plot armor, but my expectation is actually the exact opposite. Now, it'll be curious what we end up getting, but just because she is absurdly overpowered does not mean that she is going to be helpful in any kind of battle or, involved in their schemes. So Big Mom traveling with the Strats actually is going to heighten the difficulty level. But as I said before, it's not certain what exactly we will get, how much of it we will see, time will tell. Going back to the beginning of this chapter, we start off seeing the Shogun mad at Komurasaki, wasting her beauty, and at the same time we got an official reveal at his powers, which is a mythical zone snake fruit model Yamata no Orochi, which is everything that I wanted. There was some discussion for a long time about what his powers could be. Many people, myself included, thought it was possible that he had some kind of smile fruit, but Oda chose, I think, the most hyped thing. Now I just want to point this out to you guys. I'm not entirely sure. I tried researching the Yamata no Orochi, but I couldn't find anything. When it comes to mythical zones in the One Piece world so far, All of them have some kind of unique special ability, like Sengoku's Buddha Fruit and his Zen Shockwaves. You have Marco's Phoenix Fruit and his ability to regenerate. If Kaido is a mythical zone, I wouldn't be surprised if, as a dragon, he had essentially impenetrable armor, impenetrable scales. Plus, being a dragon means, and we've already seen, that he has a fire breath, which can be incredibly powerful. So the Yamato no Orochi might have some kind of special ability. I'll continue to try and do some research on this, but if anybody knows anything more than I do, please feel free to share it. I also wonder if Oda might sort of mix mythologies. I'm sure that's allowed. He can do whatever he wants to do. So maybe it's a situation where you cut off one head and another head grows, similar to the Hydra. Just another idea to sort of throw out there is it was stated in mythology that the Yamato no Orochi was like leagues, like miles big. So it is entirely possible maybe that he has the ability to grow, similar to maybe San Juan Wolf or Smoothie. But of course, the big question to sort of throw in here at the same time as, well, you have an awesome devil fruit that can do potentially some crazy things being a mythical zone. It's like, well, just how relevant is the Shogun going to be in any sort of fight? Frankly, guys, the Shogun is just underwhelming. I don't think that he is inept. He is a capable fighter, but in terms of the top tiers, somebody who's like Luffy level, Yonko Commander level, or even Kinemon, the other top tiers in Wano, is the Shogun up to that level? It's doubtful. But I really do want to see this Devil Fruit in action, and I want to see the Shogun have some sort of meaningful fight because of it alone. But there's some other things that we need to talk about as well. First off, I thought it was really cool how Oda tied in the mythology of the Yamato no Orochi into the story of One Piece. So in the mythology itself, the Yamato no Orochi basically required sacrifices, daughters from this elderly couple, and he ate them. And in this chapter, we got to see the Shogun as a cannibal. In this case, Komurasaki clearly parallels Kushinada, the last of the daughters, who was the only one to have been saved. Now, in the mythology, the Yamato no Orochi was defeated by the god Susanoo. And the way that he did it is actually really funny and very relevant to One Piece. Rather than straight up fight the creature, which I guess it was just too strong, he lured it in and got it drunk to the point that it was in a coma. So here might be Oda's inspiration for making Kaido a drunkard, and also might relate to the Fire Festival, in which there should be lots of food and lots of booze. Shogun might get drunk, and that's when he might be defeated. But I'm not even kidding you guys. The god Susanoo defeated the Yamato no Orochi by making it drunk, and as it was drunk, he sliced it into little pieces. The only part of which he couldn't cut was the fourth tail, which inside was a legendary sword. So maybe this is a power that Oda could incorporate into One Piece somehow, like there's swords inside of the Shogun's body in some way. I don't know, but just pointing that out to you guys. Lastly, guys, when the Shogun transforms into the Yamato no Orochi, obviously it has 8 heads, each with varying personalities. Clearly one head represents the Shogun himself, like his true form. This head is distinctive and different from the rest because it has his mustache. And as so far, it is the only one we have seen talking. And I'm just curious how this works and what determines the personalities of the other heads. Are they basically like derivatives of the Shogun's own personality, sort of segmented and specified per head? Like this is the stupid head and this is the angry head. Or is this possibly just the personality of the devil fruit itself? I really don't want to talk about this in depth, but it's always curious me about the spirit of the devil fruit, and absent of some other entity controlling it, whether or not it would have its own personality. Like for instance, you take an object who's eaten a zone type devil fruit, what determines its personality? But the reason that I'm bringing this up here is it seems like a question as to whether or not the Shogun can actually control all 8 heads very efficiently. In this chapter, we got some very interesting panels. Panels in which not the Shogun, but his other heads started attacking his own subordinates randomly. They even asked, why is he attacking us? It's possible that these heads are acting completely independently in this case. But moving on from the Shogun for a moment, I thought that it was interesting that one of his subordinates or one of his court members was seen asking the ninjas to go stop the Shogun and rescue Komurasaki. He's clearly not a popular guy. And it seems as though more than you would expect are not okay with him doing whatever it is that he wants to do. And I think that the same thing was emphasized later. After Kiyoshiro had killed Komurasaki, everybody there was mad at him. Nobody approved of his or the shogun's actions. And they specifically commented as to whether or not Kiyoshiro did this to prove his loyalty to the shogun. So I really doubt that the shogun has many supporters among the samurai, aside from maybe the ninja and Kiyoshiro. But talking about Kiyoshiro, did he do this to prove his loyalty to the shogun? Almost like implies to me the exact opposite, like he did this as a show of loyalty because he is in fact not loyal. I'm going to say this again, guys. There is nothing that you could say to me to convince me that Komurasaki is dead or will die. She is going to survive, which seems almost impossible. I mean, Kiyoshiro sliced almost directly through her. She could have been sliced in half. There's blood on his face. She looks like she is about to die. These are fatal wounds, but she's not going to die. So we need to be asking right now how she gets out of this. I really hope that Oda doesn't take this the obvious way, which is that Komurasaki literally tanks this blow somehow and gets saved because people stitch her up later or something like that. Like Luffy versus Katakuri, when Katakuri shanked himself and then Luffy was shanked, both stated to be fatal wounds, which were in fact not fatal. If Komurasaki is really cut like she is now, I want her to die. Just from a purely realistic standpoint. So because of that, I hope that there is some kind of trick and play here. Like Kiyoshiro's powers or Komurasaki's own powers, Devil Fruit abilities, or whatever it might be, would save them, and only they know of these abilities, and everyone else are going to be duped into thinking that she has died. Because I think that you have to admit that the sequence of events was really odd. Did Kiyoshiro really need to step in exactly when he did, and just take out Komurasaki that quickly? If he just wanted to give her an honorable death. That has a look to me of somebody who's acting quick on their feet. Taking control of the situation so that the shogun doesn't actually kill her. And as was pointed out just in the last chapter itself, Kiyoshiro is loyal to his subordinates. And it was suggested that he in part raised her or created her. And with this being said, it casts suspicion on the moment just before Kiyoshiro acted when he asked her if she was ready. So yeah, I'm looking for some kind of trick. But I have no idea what that trick would be. But the last thing I want to talk about when talking about Kiyoshiro and Komurasaki is, at the end of this scene, one of the two, for sure, received one of Kinemon's Kozuki invitation cards. And while initially I thought that this was Kiyoshiro, it seems on further inspection this is most likely going to be Komurasaki. Which is no surprise. We saw her reaction to them talking down on the Kozuki and Momo in the last chapter. The reason I say this, as was pointed out to me by Revujo, is this card seems to be sort of hovering right above the ground, almost exactly where you would expect Komurasaki to have been laying dying. And then it becomes far more interesting, Kiyoshiro's reaction, because he has an exclamation point like surprise maybe. He didn't know that she had this card. So yeah, this was far more interesting if Kiyoshiro possessed the card, but I do think that is Komurasaki. So where this goes from here, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe this justifies a reason to save her, to perhaps get some sort of intel on the meaning of this card. Or maybe this could feed into my headcanon that Kiyoshiro wants to become the shogun and uses this plan that he knows about of Kinemon and the Kozuki in order to take advantage of the chaos and overthrow him. I don't really know, guys. All I can tell you is that this moment felt significant and its importance will be revealed later. But yeah, aside from this, I just love it when the members of these Straw Hats, which aren't typically that useful in battle and don't play that significant of a role, do something cool or awesome or amazing or awe-inspiring, and Nami did that in this chapter. Zeus is just next tier, and I know that people have been wanting her to keep Zeus. I don't know how realistic that is, but I do know that I want it. But yeah, guys, aside from all this, I found the rest of the chapter to be hilarious. The only real thing of significance is it seems really likely that the legend of the Kozuki returning as Ghost is going to be justified. That's going to be a rumor that's going to spread, and the Shogun is going to fear even more than he did previously this reality. But in terms of ways of possibly saving Komurasaki, the only other way that I can see, unless this is some kind of trick, is if the Strats literally grab her as they are escaping using Shinobu's powers. And I don't think that it's impossible because Toko has been asking for it. But yeah, guys, that is pretty much all I had to say today. As always, I'm curious as to what you think. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.